Namaste, Divya Sajano, boys and girls, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to another episode of Sounds Home Podcast. With me, like always, is my highly skilled, trained professional co-host, Mr. Parth Walker. And today we have a really special guest. We've got a friend of ours. We've got Mr. Aryan Bardekar. Aryan is a very well-trained dancer. He's ventured into the culinary art of cooking. Aryan is pursuing his degree in hospitality and culinary, if I'm not wrong, from Bombay.
Yeah.
And Aryan has started his own page which centers around spreading the word about his POV on the world of cooking, food, hospitality, etc. And Aryan is going to be talking about how he's sort of following and using social media as a platform to put himself out and all the wonderful things that he's planned and his how he dabbled into dance, how he's now sort of ventured into cooking and a lot more. Thank you so much for joining us, Aryan. कैसा है bro? क्या चल रहा है?
Thanks for the intro, man, and thanks for having me. Firstly, I'm
It's a pleasure, bro. It's a pleasure. Yeah.
super grateful because I also wanted to start out into podcast soon, and I
Arey,
just
sorry, we are
pity you.
creating more of us. Feels like Ultron, right? So it's just like multiplying that.
Yeah.
No. I mean, it's great.
So,
Bro. Podcast
yeah,
is a very
man.
good platform to sort of put yourself out there. So I
Right,
think
right.
you definitely should start a podcast, which is wonderful. Yeah. So what's happening right now? What's up? How are you sort of looking at things? There's a lockdown which is sort of one of the many lockdowns which has sort of taken its course. So how do you sort of
Yeah,
look at it? The good thing is that you can still cook and you can still do your thing. I'm so you're doing your college
yeah.
also. What is everything been like? How are you looking at things as of
So, bro, first though, I'm super grateful कि मैं घर पे ही हूँ, and
now?
I'm not stuck. I'm not stuck in Mumbai or some place
Hmm.
because that would have been scary as hell.
Sure.
And so फिलहाल तो I'm just enjoying घर का खाना and as you said, my food content can be made at home also.
Right. Absolutely.
The only bummer is that my food trips that I make, food
Yeah.
trips
Yeah.
to explore Indian cuisine and all, उस पे pause
Ah.
हो गया है.
Ah.
And that's
Ah.
the only downside, but it's fine. It's not worth risking my health for it.
Right.
True that.
Right. Absolutely. Absolutely. Because I was even going to ask you about your food trips, which we'll sort of touch on upon later in the podcast. Tell me about how did you sort of start into dancing in the first place? Because this podcast centers around people from different forms of art. Not that cooking is any lesser of an art. I'm just talking about like your beginnings and sort of
Yeah.
venturing into art. So how did you sort of start into dancing? Who were the influences that sort of gravitated you towards taking dancing as an art form? How did it start for you?
So it's actually funny that I wasn't keen on joining a dance class at that
Okay.
time. My mom had to force me. This was back when I was 13.
Yeah.
And so the biggest influence was
Ah.
the Step Up series. Step Up dance
Yeah.
movies देखे होंगे
Yep.
सबने.
Ha.
So there was Step Up 3 was around 2007, and उसके बाद it took a really long time for the next movie.
Mhm.
So Step Up 3 was like the dance movie of my life. Ki watch it on repeat, and when everyone's asleep, go dance in your room alone and stuff.
Ah.
So
What's your favorite like step up? I've seen the Channing Tatum one. I really like that one. I've not seen the
that's Step Up 2. So my
No,
favorite
Channing
part
Tatum was
would be
Step Up one. Oh, Channing Tatum was in
Yeah,
Step Up one.
yeah, that was the first one.
yeah. I
Step Up
think
2 when he was there
Step
for
Up 2
the
में हाँ for a short time. Right. So Step Up 3 में I feel there's this song Club Can't Handle Me. You've heard it?
Okay.
Mhm.
I think I-
Florida. Florida was
Florida.
also a huge thing
Oh, yeah,
back
yeah.
then.
Yeah.
So that song was so peppy and so energetic. मैंने उस टाइम में मेरा रिंगटोन भी वही रख दिया था. It would be that fun to hear that वो गाना लगता ही I would dance or just feel like getting up and dancing. So that's my favorite clip from that whole movie.
Acha, that's interesting, bro.
Yeah.
That's interesting. So you were 13 when you sort of started into dancing.
Yeah, right.
As far as I remember from like being in the dance class that we both were together at one point of time, you were very like inclined and you were I think you were the best of the batch also. Not undoubtedly.
I mean,
for sure.
for me, I feel it still took. You left around
2015
2016. Acha, 15.
Yeah, 2015 and yeah. Once we had that
Right.
yeah, that
So I feel उसके बाद जो 2 साल हुए, that's when actual growth happened, because till that time I was dancing for fun, and of course
for fun.
whatever instructors told वो किया, But then after that, I was like, ki, damn, this needs discipline, this needs technique.
For sure, for sure, for sure.
So that I think 2018 was what I felt was my best in terms of the graph,
Yeah.
in dance.
Hmm, 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 hmm.
Yeah, but
Right.
then after that, college happened, and then everything had to go for a pause.
Yeah. Yeah. What I find interesting about that is that dancing and cooking are sort of like contrasting. I mean, both require you to be on your feet, but at the same time, cooking is way more relaxed. Of course, there's cooking requires a lot of presence of mind and constant calculation, and presuming things to
Yeah,
go from. I mean, looking at them from like a step-to-step level, where you are sometimes there's
yeah.
multiple level of preparations parallelly happening, which sort of lead to like you're frying something, you're boiling something, you're
But
cooking something, you're
yeah,
chopping something.
so the
Yeah.
thing is that cooking, I feel the complete opposite of what you just said, because
Okay.
cooking professionally in a restaurant or a hotel kitchen
Ha ha.
is completely a different ball game.
Oh, for
And
sure. Yeah.
it's you get so many orders, and because we can't just say that you can't order, right. There are time limits and all, like
Yeah.
12 might be the last order or something, but
Yeah.
still we as a hospitality service, we have to entertain people even if it's 4-star hours sometimes and
Ha
all.
ha ha.
So
Ha.
it's totally, you have to be on your feet when you're in a restaurant kitchen, and I feel
Right.
dancing is more relaxing.
Yeah. In that sense, dancing is more relaxed.
Yeah.
Of course. Of course. Of course. Yeah. 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 It makes sense if you look at it that way. I
Hmm.
meant it. So, did you sort of get into cooking because you felt that you wanted that adrenaline rush of like, constantly being on your feet and, trying to be very efficient in terms of making different things and being diverse? Was it that for you that sort of like, was a driving force for you to sort of get into cooking, or was it the fact that you could sort of, what was the instigating factor for you to get into cooking in the first place, right?
So this is this is a problem with most Indians who, in
Ah,
fact, most students who want to get into culinary schools, is
hmm.
that we don't know how much adrenaline and how much pressure goes into an industrial kitchen.
Yeah.
So just like any other student,
Ah,
I was inclined because I would be helping my mom in the kitchen or my
ah,
grandma.
ah,
So I used to be the tasting chef, you know,
ah,
कि
ah,
अगर अगर कुछ बनता था तो इसको इसको बता दो, ये बता देगा तुमको कि क्या कम ज्यादा है.
ah,
So
ah, ah.
that's why I started watching then TV shows. MasterChef Australia was also a huge hit back then.
Oh, for sure.
अभी भी है,
Yeah,
but there
Australia
are
depends
more.
on, yeah, both
Yeah,
of them.
there are more shows now. So
Ah,
back then in the Indian audience, I think MasterChef Australia was like, damn, everyone's
yeah,
non-culinary people also watching and all.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
So I started watching TV shows then. Then there's Food Safari, Eat
Ah,
Street,
hmm.
and basically Fox Traveler ke sare food
Do you
food
do you
shows.
watch the show called Foodies, which used to come on Times now? Foodies.
Foodies.
Kunal Vijayakar used to host it. It was a very popular
Uh,
show back in the day. I think
I'm
around
not sure, man.
around like
Not
late
sure.
2000s, and sort of like till early 2010. So he's done an
Hmm.
interview with like everybody, like Ranbir Kapoor during Rockstar. They went in Hard Rock Cafe, they
Acha.
like all this stuff. It's insane, bro. Whatever clips you can find of Foodies, it's amazing because Kunal Vijayakar is
Hmm.
a very famous sort of
Acha.
entity on like so he like would sort of be very passionate about food, so he would just like
Hmm.
sit with actors and like talk to them about food, what's their favorite meal, probably go to their house, probably take them somewhere and all those things.
Yeah.
It's wow, bro, it's just wonderful. uh that's great, bro, that's great. Good that you mentioned that you sort of like your mom and your daddy were like people who sort of like tested you as like as a bouncing board to step. uh Tell me about this. Were they like I'm sure that they were one of the people that sort of you looked up to in terms of cooking. Were there any? You also mentioned MasterChef Australia. Were those the people that you sort of looked up to as like your ideal chefs, or were there other people also that sort of inspired you or influenced you to sort of become a cook?
So MasterChef Australia was really cool and stuff, but I
Yeah.
never
Ah,
really looked up to those chefs because
okay.
they
Okay.
most of the time they had like really complex dishes, which, and I was
Yeah.
young, so मुझे
Yeah.
नहीं समझ में आता था कि ये लोग क्या कर रहे हैं.
Ah,
It was just fancy plating and fancy ingredients.
ah,
So तब तो लगता था कि हम तो नहीं बनाते ये सब, right? We are
ah, ah,
we are still on tikkas and biryanis. I
ah,
am. So so I'm
yeah.
like, it wasn't very relatable. But then
Ah,
Chef Vikas Khanna came with in
ah.
MasterChef India.
India, yeah.
So I feel
I think Akshay Kumar
the
was that season, no? Akshay Kumar probably.
Hmm, hmm, hmm.
Yeah.
As a host or as a guest?
Akshay Kumar was one of the judges, na? Akshay Kumar, Vikas Khanna. I don't know whether Vikas Khanna
Really?
was the first season. Oh yeah, the first season of
Not sure, man.
Masterchef. Because Akshay Kumar
Acha.
used to make food in Bangkok, right? Apparently,
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
they wanted to sort of sell it as like a
Hmm.
own entity sort of doing. So Akshay Kumar
He
was
used
the
to, yeah, he used to make cook as well as wait tables sometimes.
yeah, right,
Yeah.
Yeah.
right. So Akshay Kumar was one of the
So
first
yeah.
judges. And then later on, Sanjeev Kapoor and all those people also came. Like
Hmm.
they got,
Yeah, Sanjeev Kapoor and even Ranveer Brar. So
Hmm.
these were the Indian chefs which were like they made it look so cool that chefs
right,
can be Indian chefs can be celebrities too, right?
yeah.
So it's no longer ki they're just chefs. They've got
Huh.
some fame also to them.
For sure.
So yeah, that's so initially it started out very and this is a problem with most students. It's very glamorous, right? There's food, you
हाँ
travel, you get to
हाँ
eat stuff. So people
yeah
feel that oh damn, मुझे भी यही करना है. But
हाँ
then once you work in a kitchen,
हम्म,
you will be like कि अरे भाई मैं घंटे तक बस प्याज काट रहा हूँ. मैं बस ये I'm just washing stuff. I'm just picking up stuff from here there.
yeah
So it's really hectic in a kitchen,
हाँ
restaurant kitchen.
हाँ. Even I would feel that it's like it's all like it's a very sort of like a fairy tale life, and you're just like you're going and you have all these like dishes and
Yeah.
these ingredients that you've not heard, these herbs and these spices and all these things. So
Also,
when you went
I have a kind of a follow-up question to that. I mean, I always wonder. For me, I think cooking is cooking is a thing which is very practical oriented. I mean, as much as you do it, you get
Yeah.
better at it, right? I mean, it's something. The only thing that I can't really relate with is someone teaching you theory about cooking. I don't understand that
Right.
part of things. But yes, again, there are schools, colleges which actually make people
Yeah.
understand how it all happens. So give me a point of view about that. How
So
much does the theory is
yeah
plays a
yeah
part?
yeah. So fortunately, first 2 years of my college were on campus, and
Mhm.
they kept most of the food related stuff in the first 2 years only.
Okay.
After that they reduced it to almost
हाँ
nil
Mhm.
because then we started focusing on management and all.
Right.
हाँ
But let's just say that we still had food subjects.
हम्म,
So as you said, it is only feasible to an extent to learn about how different ingredients work, how different techniques work. But even if I tell you ki you have to boil an egg at 150 degrees
Mhm.
Celsius,
Mhm.
हम्म,
doing it in the practical is a complete
Yeah,
different
right,
ball game.
yeah
right.
yeah yeah
So yeah, it's like you can't read about push-ups, right? You
Mhm.
have to do the push-ups. So
true
it's exactly like that. So it's
true
you can only enrich your knowledge, but you can't gain any skills by just reading through
right
textbooks
absolutely
for your
Right.
culinary skills.
right
Right. Yeah, of course. And then, there are books which have number of dishes and how to
Hmm.
cook them and all that. Then there are people making videos as well, which is also like they would tell you certain, this is the amount of thing you have to and all that. They will have
Yeah.
proper numbers around things. And what I really don't understand is, so every one of us have seen our mothers cooking in the house, right? And I don't see a mother cooking, or for that matter, anyone cooking in their house with measurements. I've
Yeah.
not seen that happening when they are cooking for their family. Of course, in probably in the hotel, restaurants, and bigger places, it might help. But I've not seen that happening throughout my life, and that's where my question came up is, I mean, this question came up that how much is it like the theory part of things
Right.
which really helps or not
So
helps?
one more interesting fact about that. It's I feel so there's this thing called standardization. Okay, in
Mhm.
restaurants
Mhm.
every recipe has to be standardized because if
Right.
if let's say you come today
Mhm.
and you come
Mhm.
3 months later,
Right.
you should get the same taste, the
Mhm.
same
oh absolutely
portion size, the
Mhm.
same garnish, unless you're deliberately changing something in the dish. But if it's
Right.
if it's butter chicken today, it has to taste the same all
Similar,
year
yeah.
round, right?
Yeah, yeah.
oh yeah so
So So I feel that for that reason, chefs need to know how to work with measurements. But it's also a huge skill to develop over time to
Right.
cook with intuition. जो
Right.
जो मम्मी और दादी को best आता है.
Exactly. Right.
And that I feel that you have to. So when you're in your restaurant and all, you have no option but to use those measurements.
True. True.
But I feel when you're at home or when you're experimenting, tab everyone should be just pushing their limits for training their mind कि कितना डालना है, ये ज़्यादा हो गया क्या, without actually measuring. So just using your hand and stuff, कि अंदाज से हो जाएगा, and then see if it's actually working. Because even
Right.
that's very important as a chef to know कि कुछ कम ज़्यादा हुआ है या नहीं.
Speaking of intuition, what is instinctively your go-to sort of dish that you would probably make? Like people sort of have a go-to dish to eat. What is your go-to dish to make that you feel that you are best naturally automated to sort of make, and you have a better grasp on?
So my go-to dish would be, firstly, I'm the kind of guy जो फ्रिज में जो है उसके बेस्ड पे कुछ बनाते हैं टाइप्स.
Resourceful. हाँ.
Resourceful and जुगाड़ू कि आज ये नहीं है, let's try something new. If there's no ghee, let's try mustard oil, ऐसे वगैरह वगैरह.
हाँ.
So whatever's in the fridge. So most of the times there's masalas and eggs. So I
Right.
feel my go-to dish would be, the most simplest would be egg curry or fried eggs or anything related to eggs. Because they're super simple also, and ghar pe most of the time it's available also. So yeah, that would be my go-to dish.
Okay.
Eggs in any form.
And I think eggs are something people can't ruin for some reason. I mean, if you give someone who knows that even the simplest thing to be done with eggs, it will at least be like you can eat it.
Yeah.
Maybe मतलब वैसा वाला नहीं होगा कि जल गया तो खा नहीं सकता egg. It won't happen with the egg. Right?
Yeah.
So I think that's also one thing.
Exactly. It's one of the easier dishes also to make.
Correct. Absolutely. It's like aloo for like people. Versatile
Yeah.
sort of dish that you can sort of dabble into.
Versatile ingredient types.
Right. So, what's like your favorite vegetarian cuisine? So, vegetarian sort of dish to sort of play around with. What do you like in veg food?
So, unfortunately, most of us know paneer as a vegetarian filling alternative, right? And so currently I don't have a favorite, but so that's the whole point of exploring Indian cuisine, because we've got so many vegetarian options. Most of the vegetarians are in India only, if you see worldwide also.
Right. For sure.
So we've over the years, our ancestors have also experimented with so much of the veg stuff, but वो हमने कभी देखा ही नहीं. We overlooked it and we moved on. So it's no longer in the magnifying glass of the focal length of people's eyes.
Right.
So, but I feel Maharashtrian dishes have quite a few tasty vegetarian dishes. Like if you've had misal, right? Misal to khaya.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, of course.
So we call it misal. There's a misal बोलते हैं उसको, and उसका non fast food version is called just matki chi bhaji, right? So I feel that would be my go-to veg option, because firstly it's a good protein source also. Moong hai. Moong nahi, wait, matki is different, my bad. And we make it like super spicy, it's really scrumptious with plain roti.
Right.
Super simple also. So
absolutely.
yeah.
Right. I mean, speaking about like misal, which is like a very local sort of thing. What is like the sort of fusion that you sort of want to bring forward? What do you think? What are these two cuisines that you sort of tasted? Could be two Indian cuisines, could be local cuisine, and could be a national cuisine, or could be something that you sort of had, which is like an international cuisine, or sort of, I don't know what you call it, tropic. No, I think forgetting the name. Continental.
Global cuisine.
Global cuisine. If you had like sort of like a global cuisine that you feel sort of matches the taste palette of something which is like local, is there some possible fusion which you feel is untapped that you think that you could sort of bring forward in terms of with your cooking?
So firstly, this is part of my vision to change the term fusion itself.
Okay.
Because because when people talk about fusion, na,
Hmm.
it's less thought is put into it. If you even see like a butter chicken pizza, even that can be considered as a fusion because it's just getting two dishes together, right?
Yeah.
So what I am trying to change is uh, creating intention behind fixing and mixing two cuisines or techniques.
Right.
So let's just say we have let's say we have cheesecake,
Yeah.
right? So
Yeah.
cheesecake's something that came from New York cheesecake, and वहाँ से popular था. And in India there's no cheesecake, right?
Right.
Indian thing cheesecake नहीं होता.
Hmm.
But there's this dish in Odisha called chenna poda, which
Okay.
chenna is paneer, chenna is paneer,
Chena.
and
Chena.
poda
Yeah.
chena,
Yeah.
yeah, and poda is I think burnt. So
Okay.
what they do is they make cakes of cheese and they bake it.
Mhm.
They add like sugar and other ingredients. I'm not sure what recipe it is, but they add like chenna, sugar, and other flavorings. Shayad ilaichi hogi, who knows? And
Hmm.
then they bake it till it's almost burnt.
Hmm.
Mhm. Mhm.
So that would be a intentionful. Sorry, it might be a wrong word, but that's cooking with intent. So that bridge you can make. Ki
Right.
cheesecake is there, which is an
Mhm.
international thing, and
Mhm.
this so chenna is also a cheese only, right? It's
Right.
paneer or
Right.
jo bhi. It's
Right.
made from दूध
Right.
फटने के बाद ही बनता है.
Yeah. It's for the
So
milk treat. Yeah.
yeah, so those kind of cultural bridges is
Yeah.
what I aim to make with my food, not
Right.
Right.
just fusion.
Right. Right.
That's interesting, bro. That's interesting. It's good that you mentioned like the southern part of it, and you mentioned Chena. What I really
Hmm.
found interesting about like your whole page that you started on Instagram, where you sort of documenting your journey and putting forward all these your POV in terms of everything. Tell me about like traveling across India and coming across all these different varied cuisines that you sort of. I'm sure you went to Lucknow also, if I'm not wrong, right?
Yeah,
So
yeah, yeah.
tell us about the places that you sort of, discovered in terms of like how their food is. What are the most favorite sort of cuisines that you've had based on hype and based on reputation or based on
Hmm.
the general sort of popularity that they have out there? And what are the sort of cuisines that completely surprise you in terms of some things that were untapped and probably wouldn't have come in your horizon had you not physically been to
Hmm.
those
Yeah.
particular places and had them?
Thanks to mention that. Most of my food trips are either the popular eats
Hmm.
and a mixture of the offbeat, underrated foods of that
Mhm.
city or place.
Right.
So as soon as I started my Instagram page, I managed to go through three cities. One was Lucknow, then I went to Bhopal and Indore also,
Mhm.
and then Kolhapur.
Okay.
So my research would be first just asking my friends who are from that places कि popular places बता दो मैं जाके check कर लूँगा, and also calling the locals like the people who've lived there to know like the places which aren't on Google or
Mhm.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Right.
the
Absolutely.
the
Yeah.
places which you can't find through just on the internet.
Sure. Sure. Absolutely. Yeah.
So I feel the most shocking find for me
Hmm.
was in Kolhapur, and
Okay.
unfortunately, I didn't get to try it.
Hmm.
But the person who was hosting me, he was a farmer there, Sagar
Oh
Anna.
wow.
Mhm.
Yeah,
Okay.
so the first dish he made was doodh sar, and it's basically a curry made from fresh milk.
Oh okay.
And he says that his family was the one who started that dish, apparently.
Oh wow.
Okay.
Yeah, and it's a very super regional dish. It's not, people don't even know about Dudhsar outside of Kolhapur per se.
Mhm. Mhm.
So it's a super regional dish. And the second dish he was going to make, but he said it takes a lot of time and I was on a tight schedule.
Hmm.
So the second dish was called Rakti Mundi.
Rakhi Mundi.
And Rakti Mundi, Rakti means blood
Mhm.
and Mundi means head.
Right.
Oh.
So yeah, so it's a super exotic dish.
Okay.
They what they do is they take the blood of goat
Mhm.
and
Okay.
they cook it. So once you keep cooking the blood, it gets thicker like if you've seen liver, have you ever seen any chicken or goat liver?
Mhm.
Like custard, like
Mhm.
jelly custard.
Mhm.
Okay.
So they cook the blood till it's that thick, and then they cook the head, and then they serve it together, make a curry out of it, yeah, jo bhi. And I was like, ki, are you sure this is a Kolhapur thing? Because I was blown away. Ki, I thought Maharashtrians won't have such hardcore uh, meat dishes, you know. They would. I thought it would be more of a veg diet, and right.
Sure.
So इतने exotic चीजें महाराष्ट्र में ही है. So then I thought कि damn, I've got so much to explore in India then, because this was just Kolhapur is still 4 hours away. But then imagine the kind of cuisine that can be in
Oh,
Himachal
absolutely.
Pradesh or Chhattisgarh. Nobody's even heard about it, right?
Yeah.
Most people just think of Indian food as naan, dal makhni, butter chicken. They're
Yeah.
the usual suspects, and biryani,
Yeah.
of course.
Mhm.
Oh, yeah.
So yeah, it's
Right.
the motive is to change people's mindset and
Right.
encourage them to try more local cuisines, you know.
For sure. For sure.
Yeah.
True,
What
true,
is like
true.
your ideal place that you want to first get towards in terms of like trying the cuisine of once things open up?
So I've been planning a trip to Arunachal Pradesh,
Oh, great.
and this time it's going to be more professional. I'm gonna be going with a few friends, but it's more of a team per se, because they don't know each other. I've just specifically chosen like a
Chosen.
photographer,
Mhm.
another culinary guy,
Right.
and so I've literally invited them to join me. And
Hmm.
this time we're actually going through a travel agency, because it's going to be hardcore tribal food,
Right.
and until and unless the locals and the travel agency don't hook us up with those people, we
Mhm.
can't really get our hands on that kind of cuisine.
Right.
So that
Absolutely.
I think that's going to be my go-to food trip once everything starts opening.
Right, right.
That's interesting, bro. That's interesting. What I want to even ask you is, speaking about like, food cuisine is one aspect of it. I want it's like a sort of like a dual question or like a question with like two parts. My first part to your question is what are the food trends? Because you have like all of these wonderful pages on Instagram, like all these food bloggers, and doing
Yeah.
unraveling different kind of stratas of like whether it's like your whether they are sort of tapping into the national market or whether they are going to local places or street food and all those things. What are the food trends that you would possibly want to do differently in terms of no offense to the people who are already doing it? What are the food trends that you sort of see yourself doing differently with your own approach and your own POV when it comes to food?
Yeah, so I feel there are two trends. One is the social media food trend, which is going in its own world.
Mhm.
But there is also, so there's this report that is released every year called the Godrej Book of Food Trends. Food Trend
Okay.
Report करके है.
Yeah. Yeah.
So those reports tell you an actual picture of what's going on in India. And but what Instagram page of food bloggers are, they are mostly focusing on the cheese pulls or loads of mayo and loads of chocolate,
Ah.
the most very aesthetic things to get people drooling or
Mhm. Mhm.
Oh yeah, yeah, for
hooked
sure.
on, right?
For sure.
It's not very meaningful per se, even though there are a lot of good food bloggers who are covering like street food and untapped potential of India, Joby.
Right.
But there are some of them who
Baba ka dhaba. I'm just kidding. Sorry. Sorry.
yeah, so there are some who
Yeah.
just purely do it for likes. And
No, for sure, for
so
sure.
so in terms of the social media trend, that's something I would like to change. Ki
Yeah.
do food which has meaning behind it, and
Right.
meaning not necessarily has to be boring, right?
Mhm.
You can make something as simple as some chicken curry, but just instead of focusing on what songs are you going to put and what camera angles and what's the background going to be like, just focus on finding like a good recipe in a cookbook and just cook with your heart or eat with your heart. So I feel the key word being intention behind food. Ki
Right. Absolutely.
if you scroll through, even though most people don't even notice this and don't care about it, But if you scroll through Instagram right now,
Hmm.
half of the food trends would be right Maggies and huge shitloads of food and huge
हाँ
sandwiches and this challenge, that
हाँ
challenge,
हाँ
and those kind of things
हाँ
like mayo on
fusion
everything.
food with
Fusion,
mayo
fusion
and
Right.
food with mayo and chocolate.
yeah with the
Huge
something
ass waffles and
हाँ
Bro,
huge as
वो
waffles
सब.
if you go to YouTube, आपको हर वीडियो के
Yeah.
पहले हर वीडियो के टाइटल में if you want to search for something to cook, you will find videos which start with 5 मिनट में बन जाएगा ये and the other keyword is इसको खाने के बाद आप बार बार बनाएंगे. I have no
Uh,
idea what they are trying to
yeah
prove actually. But
yeah.
yeah
that's the kind of trend that happens.
yeah
Yeah.
yeah
Because I think it has got to do more with uh, people seeing influencers now, right? This is the age of like everyone wants to be an influencer in the market, in the game. So
yeah
I feel that because uh, not food per se, but there are influencers in fashion and
Mhm.
health and
Mhm.
fitness.
yeah
So you get that feeling of missing out, right? Ki if I'm not going with the trend, people aren't going to like my content.
right
Mhm.
It's a very easy trap to get in, to
yeah
fall in.
Yep.
absolutely
So
Yep.
I feel
you gotta
people
do
should,
what works yeah
yeah.
yeah
So people should just take a step back and just think. So I mentioned about stocks. Does any one of you trade or invest?
No.
not yet but yeah
Not
yeah
yet.
please go ahead
Or you
Yeah.
should, by the way. It's the
yeah
best
the
age.
NFTs and all those things yeah absolutely
Yeah. We,
20s is your best age to start investing.
bro, but we are
So
not getting anything out of this podcast.
no, bro. You can
No, I'm
literally.
just
So
kidding. I'm just
I
kidding.
think
I'll
I think we'll have to start gambling eventually
no, bro. So same for me. I started this year itself, and the deal was that I don't earn, right?
Mhm.
But I
Mhm.
just I just asked my dad, "Can you start giving me pocket money
Mhm.
every month
Nice.
without fail, and I won't
Mhm.
ask you for any cash after that. Everything's on me. So you can start with like 1,000 rupees. Also, just ask your dad, and then from
wow
that you make a budget for yourself. कि इतने में मैं खाऊंगा, इतना मैं मस्ती करूंगा,
हाँ
इतना मैं invest करूंगा.
hmm.
So coming to the food trend part. So if you see there are two types of investing. One is though you see like short term trends in the market
Mhm.
and then you buy and sell accordingly. If it's
Right.
low, you buy and then as soon as it shoots, you sell. जो भी.
Mhm. Mhm.
So this is what people are doing on Instagram. कि they see अभी एक trend शुरू हो गया है कुछ was that aesthetic thing that started? I say there's some song playing and then
Runaway
the
Aurora
background runaway aurora. Ha
yeah
ha. So
yeah
yeah, now that trend starting. So now irrespective of what field you are in, you're a doctor,
yeah yeah
you're a food blogger, fashion blogger, kuch bhi ho, everyone's doing that, right?
yeah
So it becomes like ki you become so hooked on to the short term trends that
yeah
you're constantly moving and trying to be on your feet.
Mhm.
But if you just look back, right, you
yeah
can literally do whatever trend and it's going to catch up over time on the long run anyway.
for sure
So I feel people should start doing being themselves more online rather than just
authenticity is very
mindlessly,
important
yeah,
yeah
authenticity, man. That's the word.
right right. That's a wonderful way of looking at it, bro. Tell me about this. Tell me about hospitality. How important do you think hospitality in general is for a properly functioning sort of food business or anybody in general? How important
Hmm.
hospitality do you think is?
So I feel firstly I'm grateful ki I'm an Indian
Huh,
and Indians are known to have like one of the best hospitality
Mhm.
brands, not brands but workers or employees.
Mhm.
So because we are warm people, right? Ki jab bhi pa de type. We are open people, open as in loving people. We've
yeah.
got our fair share of hatred also, but fir bhi, like you get my point. So
Oh yeah.
it's not very rigid and formal like how it is in US or UK, right? So it's more organic here. So
Hmm.
I feel hospitality comes very easy to us because घर पे भी जब गेस्ट आते हैं we'll be like मम्मी मम्मी बोल देगी इनको ये पानी पिला दो ये करो वो करो. So we've been conditioned from a young age only to be very hospitable. And as far as a business goes, I feel that तुम्हारा food कितना भी अच्छा हो जाए in a restaurant,
Hmm.
but if the server isn't very happy to serve you and he's frowning or he's literally giving some bad expressions to you, you automatically feel that energy, right? It's no
Absolutely.
longer it's no longer just about the food, it's about the whole experience. How the people were with you, how did they seat you, or did one of the managers make it came to your table to talk to you but not make it too formal, so
Yeah.
I feel
Yeah.
it's now a huge part of our industry, and it's no longer
For sure.
focused on just the food.
Yeah. I think food and hospitality sort of go hand in hand, where you probably might come back for either of the things or both.
Yeah,
Or and I
right.
think and like they always say that it's not about what you tell people, it's about how you make people feel, right? So I think
Yeah,
yeah, hospitality is a very important thing, and I think that's what differentiates and sort of even ensures that you can sort of command a certain amount to whatever you're selling, because
hmm.
hospitality is inclusive of that
Yeah,
component of what you're asking for, right? Whether it's
absolutely.
hospitality in terms of comfort, in terms of like the infrastructure, in terms of like the
Yeah,
food, in terms of like the people, the quality of the staff that is there. What is the most
yeah,
hospitality place that you've been to? It doesn't need to be a five-star hotel. It could be the
yeah.
any sort
Restaurant
of
also.
sustainability. Yeah, hospitality has nothing to do with those things. So, what is the most hospitable place that you sort of been to as a consumer, as like a person who loves food, for the love of food?
So there's this restaurant in Mumbai called
Hmm.
O Pedro. It's
Okay.
a Goan Portuguese kind of a modern restaurant,
Hmm.
and there I felt they really take care of you. They take care
Right.
of you. So they'll explain you each dish properly. They'll not sulk, and
Right.
they know when to come to the table and when to leave you alone. Because
Hmm.
that's the most important thing. You don't want people to mandrao like flies around you and just let you eat in peace, right?
Oh yeah, yeah,
And
for sure.
you also want ki once throughout the meal, if they could just come and give that personal touch ki, oh
Sure.
Mr. Aryan, how's it going, is it fine, wagera wagera.
Oh,
So
for sure.
I feel they had it really balanced. And a very important thing which a lot of people don't focus on is that
Hmm.
even though your chefs will be talented, but if your service staff doesn't know the menu,
Yeah.
right? कि if I ask you कि ये क्या है, इसमें क्या जाता है, and if you answer me कि I'll have to ask chef, that shows really poorly about you as a server, right?
Yeah.
You should
Yeah.
be knowing each dish, each explanation, each story behind it also. कि boss ये loaded nachos है, इसमें ये dairy free है, इसमें
Hmm.
ये है वो है फलाना ढिमकाना. You should be knowing that.
Hmm.
So they knew that shit, man. They knew like they didn't even have to. I've been to places where they opened the menu to see what's written. So they, they didn't need to do all of that shit. They told me like straight up, ki, sir, this is the thing and this is the specialty. This goes in it. It's served like this, wagera wagera. So I feel that was really special, man. Oh Pedro in BKC.
Right. Right. That's wonderful, bro. That's wonderful. Uh, Tell me about what is the ideal place that you would probably see yourself working at. I mean, what is the kind of sort of infrastructure? What is the kind of sort of work environment that you would want to see yourself being put into and function properly in?
So I feel that the smaller your establishment is,
Hmm.
the more you learn. And
Okay.
even in terms of business owners, I feel that you should focus on that small unit first.
Hmm.
You shouldn't be looking at the money part of it, or putting big establishment, big restaurants. Just
Right.
a small cloud kitchen bhi le lo,
Hmm.
but that really pushes you to focus on each element. Because it's small, you get to have that quality control over every process. And I feel, and even as a newbie, I feel that there's more opportunity to work in different departments and not just restrict myself to one place, because they'll also be needing multitasking staff, right? Smaller establishments, they won't be paying out like so much salary for different kind of jobs. So I feel people should be open for that also. If
Right.
I'm working as a chef, I don't mind putting my hands on some marketing and learning about that also. So it shouldn't be that मुझे शेफ बनना है तो भाड़ में जाए बाकी का operation. I will just be the best kanda cutter or I will
Kanda
make
cutter.
the
I would really want to see that on your crest saying that I'm a kanda cutter. Concept of Bharat
damn,
slash kanda
yeah.
cutter. But
That should
yeah,
be that should
would
be
that should be your
as a
idea.
merchandise. Yeah,
Kanda
merchandise.
cutter. But yeah, bro.
Kanda cutter OP.
Yeah, with like a
So
blue
yeah.
thing.
So yeah, man, I feel you shouldn't be just focusing on being a good cook. You should be open to, बाकी का भी बहुत कुछ है दुनिया में, वो भी सीखो ऐसे.
Right, absolutely. Absolutely. So tell me about this, bro. Having been at all these different avenues of food where you've been to like, you've had a lot of street food, where you've had like home cooked food, and where you've been to like 5-star restaurants, and you've gone to localites and, had food at their houses. And all, I mean, all sorts of, different avenues. Tell me, what do you think that all these sort of people could learn from each other in terms of, if there's one thing that really stands out for all these avenues that you've been to,
Yeah,
what do you think that they can possibly amass from each other and learn?
got it. So let's start with 5 stars, because for me they are the most boring place to explore food, right?
Okay.
It's the last place you should go to explore food. So I feel 5 stars are mainly expensive for the reason, and known for the reason being the hygiene they provide, and the experience, the ambience, and the even the recipes and the food you eat is going to be proper standardized. So if you eat a butter chicken today and a month later, it's going to be the same, and with good quality ingredients. So I feel the biggest thing people can learn from 5 stars is their hygiene and their
Right.
quality standards, quality check.
Right.
That would be something to look for. For street food, I feel people should go for exploring cuisine. So the heart of Indian cuisine, most cuisines lies on in their street food, and half of it in households. But for now, in street food, I feel it's more. Uh, how do I put this? Uh, More rustic, ki in your face, ki ekdam raw khana. It's not adulterated, or it's not refined. More than adulterated, it's not refined. It's at its purest form. So I feel people should go for uh, exploring, trying something new, or getting something really at its source. People should go for street food. And for home food, I feel people should think about take away the health factors. So most of home cooked food, most of the moms also, whenever they make food, Indian moms, every ingredient will have some medicinal value, or is सर्दी में कुछ अलग बना देंगे because it serves some purpose.
Right.
Suddenly summers आ जाएंगे, so they'll make some different ingredients use करके something, because that will have some other health benefit in that season. So I feel they've put our ancestors and our old generation, dadis and nanis, they've put in a lot of thought into the health aspect of what Indian household cooking is right now. So yeah, those are what I feel people should take away from each avenue.
Makes sense, bro. Wonderfully put together. Tell me about this, bro. What is this one sort of herb, or this one kind of spice? Speaking about like spice and herbs and all these things that you've come across that you feel is really underrated or unexplored. Underrated would be wrong to say. Unexplored in its essence, and you feel that could really serve and suit and act as a very good sort of component to most dishes that probably is not being used as much as you'd like it to be.
So could it be any ingredient or a herb?
Either of those things, bro, for sure. Both or either of those.
So let me think, because this is a tough one. Ingredient, underrated ingredient. I feel mustard oil. Mustard oil is, so it's firstly it's pungent also. So it's not liked all over India so much. North mein there is, and even in Bengali cuisine they use mustard oil. But as a whole, people don't really use mustard oil all over, right? And
Right.
I feel there's so recently I tried to experiment with something, and what I did was I just heated some mustard oil and added honey and cheese to it.
Okay.
It sounds totally random, of course, but that's how that's how you experiment, right? You just think it might go together, and you just start making. So that's when I thought, damn, this it has a very distinct, pungent and nutty flavor, mustard oil. So I felt that it can be used in a lot of sauces or tadkas that hasn't been used much in mainstream restaurants or even Indian restaurants as of now. So yeah.
Right. That's wonderful, bro. That's wonderful. Sounds interesting. Tell me about this. Someone who's like sort of venturing into Instagram. We even spoke about food presentation, and this is like a different aspect of like food presentation.
Hmm.
How to sort of look at, you spoke about like all these food bloggers, documenting and sort of covering and
Yeah.
capturing photos of food and them having food and all those things in the most visually appealing ways.
Hmm.
Uh, how do you sort of look at your own page that you're trying to run and that you're running on Instagram? What is your approach with it? What do you exactly sort of want to do with it? And what is your larger motive with it? And what do you see yourself doing? Uh, uh, what do you sort of see yourself pouring into it with in the larger scheme
Hmm.
of things?
So let's break it down into three parts. Okay. So
So,
the first part would be, how do people take inspiration for their plating, let's say,
yeah.
for their Instagram content.
Hmm.
So I strongly feel that people should avoid Pinterest and food bloggers.
Hmm, hmm, hmm.
I feel what they should do is uh, look at 2 to 3 chefs that they get inspired from and look at their plating.
Hmm.
So my one of my uh, favorite chefs is Thomas Zacharias, if I'm correct. I don't know how you pronounce it, but Chef Zach. He's he got really popular for the same reason, being highlighting Indian cuisine
Hmm.
and showcasing regional techniques and cuisines. So so that's a huge part of where I come from. Even I thought that I should be doing something similar, and that's why I started it.
Okay.
So I feel that what I did was I looked at his plating and I learned from it. It's not that I replicated it as it is, but I learned from it, right? So I feel that you should take 2 3 chefs from Instagram and just start learning their thought process, not just look at their pictures and replicate.
Sure. Sure.
Learn how they try to put something on the plate. Uh,
Right.
yeah, and then second part was, what was the second part again?
The second part was that what is your this is something Parth by asked, so I will let Parth by take over the question. Just like that corporate
Okay.
question, but we sort of clubbed it. Parth by, go for it.
Yeah, so basically it's about, how how do you kind of see things happening on this side, basically about food and food blogging as well. I mean, what do you see happening in the coming
Yeah.
future?
Yeah.
So I'll talk about what I see myself doing now.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Uh, I feel that what I see myself doing would be um, educating people through my food trips. So it's like I have an audience, right? It's literally an audience. So wherever I go, whatever I see, I get to just post and let them see that India has so much to offer, and not just the usual suspects of,
Sure.
even in chart, we've got so many different varieties apart from pani puri and all.
Mhm.
So that would be one, and second part would be replicating those dishes in my kitchen and plating them in a reimagined way. So it makes people feel good. Ki, damn, this, I didn't know that something so humble can be plated in a fancy way or given a modern touch to it. So that's what I see myself doing in the future.
Thanks.
That's wonderful, bro. That's wonderful. So on that note, bro, thank you so much for joining us, bro. It's been an absolute pleasure talking to you about this and learning more about, you know, culinary in general, the whole, the food sort of industry, your POV on it, how you sort of look at it, the different categories of it. And
Yeah, man.
I would want everybody who's made it to this point of the podcast, please go and follow Aryan firstly at Aryan.Bardekar. Aryan, if you would just want to tell everybody your Instagram ID so they can go and follow you and
So
follow
yeah,
your adventures. Yeah.
it's called Aryan Bardekar, and my bio is let's make Indian food great again. So
Oh, wonderful.
yeah,
Wonderful.
I hope to
Yeah,
inspire more people to try Indian cuisine through my lens. You know.
for sure, bro. For sure. And I'm sure you're going to do it. And you have the right intentions. And I'm really hoping that, I'm hoping to see you start your own podcast also, bro.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So
man. Soon.
please do that. Please do that. So, guys, thank you so much for making it to this point. You can go and follow us on Instagram at soundhome.pod. We put out a podcast every Friday, I suppose, on YouTube and also on other audio streaming platforms, including Spotify and Apple Music. Thank you so much. This is me, Bharat, and that's my co-host, Parths. We'll see you in the next podcast. Thank you so much, guys. Cheers. Bye bye.
Bye, guys.